So welcome you back. This is the last installment for Who Remembers Their Names. And we're going to just go to the intro, and I'll see you in a couple seconds. Let's go back 1,500 years. 535. There was a volcano. Massive volcano. So they suspect, the scientists suspect. And might be Krakatoa. And it erupted. And the next year, 536, and for the next following 10 years, was the coldest it's been in 2,300 years. So there was an ice age of sorts. And that summer, 536, it was so cold that it snowed through the summertime in many places where there is no snow. Even Central America got snow, so to speak. It's hypothesized because of the cold weather, there was ramifications. There was famine, people lived closer together and they were malnourished, so there was sickness. There was mass migrations out of colder areas to places where there was more food and the climate was better. And because of that came things like war. And even going back, even prior to this, maybe even 100 years, there was a colder snap, and a lot of the tribes that were in the steppes of Russia, now modern-day Russia, Mongolia, they moved west, pushing other tribes west, which eventually brought the Huns into Western Europe, into Italy and Hungary, France, Germany, areas such as that, and really brought about the fall of the Roman Empire. And you can say that because of that push in a westerly direction out of the very cold areas in the Central Plains to Western Europe made a sort of a domino effect where one tribe would push another tribe, and eventually there was a push from the Saxons and the Angles into England to supplant the Celts that were living there at the time. And this is post-Roman Empire as well. So as the Romans receded, these other tribes came in. And it was due to climate. Fast forward to 1206. It's speculated that in northeastern Russia, in Siberia, that there was a mini ice age that brought the Mongols pushing west and pushing east into China. And so climate has always had an impact on humans and how they move around and how they hunt and how they grow and disease and so on and so forth. And we're going through some of the warmest periods in recorded history. Our population has never been bigger as a species. The way we grow crops and food sources are right on the edge, just like economics. Everything's sort of sitting on a fine balance, and people are nervous. And when that happens, you'll see the rise of tyrants, and you'll see the rise of oligarchies, and you'll see the rise of tyranny. And you'll see that because people sort of gravitate to this strongman mentality. They need to feel safe. Oh, this fella is safe, or that fella is the one that's going to have the answers for me. Democracy, they think, is too soft. It doesn't work. It doesn't address the problems. It doesn't represent me. It doesn't keep me safe. And so we're seeing around the world war in Russia coming from a tyrant. You're seeing the election that just happened in Hungary, fascism coming back to Italy. It's happening around the world, and people are looking to these sort of right-wing fascist type ideas. They're looking for a king. They're looking for a daddy to keep them safe. You know, this push, this cult, the cult that's happening in the United States. Well, the former guy was indicted. I mean, he's got so many things wrong with him. He's all about himself, and yet people think that this guy represents them and represents their ideas and will keep them safe. If you look at things in a wide perspective, instead of saying that doesn't work, you'll see that people are looking for a king. And the United States went through a revolution to get rid of that king. And England went through a revolution. They cut off the king's head. France, they cut off the king's head. You just have to go back to Rome. And maybe Caesar was a good general, and maybe even he was a good tyrant and a good leader or a good Caesar. But some of the other Caesars that came after that, and some of these emperors that came after, it was horrible. And it eventually brought the ruin of the Roman Empire. Devastation was brought from within. I think we want to avoid that. I think we want to take a long, hard look at the way we're choosing our leaders, why we're choosing our leaders, not about who they are, but what do they represent? What are their policies? And do they represent me? I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I think what people really want in the morning is they want to get up and have breakfast, have a roof over their head, and feel that their children are safe. We have a war right now. There's a tyrant in Israel, and his people don't like him. They tried to oust this guy. Now there's a war, and it's horrible. Hamas, terrible. You know, it just reminds me what Ireland went through, Northern Ireland, Ulster went through for generations. Maybe there's a reason for it, but the downturn and the price that must be paid, oftentimes in war, are we willing to pay that? I think we should take a long, hard look at that. Look at yourself. Are your decisions made out of fear, or are they made because, you think that we can serve humanity? Ask yourself that question, and is war the answer? Most of the time it's not. While you're asking yourself that question, stay tuned.